Okay, we'll get started here now. So as I mentioned probably in the last panel and the ones yesterday as well, and seeing you all in person, many of you in person and over Zoom. My name is Harrinarine, and I'm the Associate Director of Admissions here at Villanova Law. I'm also a proud 2017 graduate of the law school as well. Really excited about this panel. The title of the panel honestly says it all. Supporting our students. It's a really, really big part of the academic experience here, knowing that you have support from all different layers, from all different departments, from all different levels of the academic experience. And I have some really great panelists here today, staff, some instructors that teach at the law school, also students at the law school who will share about their experiences working with these teams and these departments. And so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and then afterwards I have a little bit of housekeeping to do just to share some additional information with you all as admitted students, things to look forward to, things that will be coming up in the next few weeks and months. So I'm going to turn it over to start to our Assistant Dean for Students and also for Academic Success, Matt Carluzzo, and then we'll just go alphabetically in order to Skylar, Nancy, and Christina for introductions.
Thanks, Phil, and thanks everyone for being here. Welcome. My name, as I mentioned, is Matt Carluzzo. I'm the Assistant Dean of Students and Academic Success. I'm part of the Academic Success Department with my colleague Skylar Cetel, who is here and next alphabetically, so she'll say hello. A fun fact about myself, just for those of you who may have interest or connection, is when after graduating from law school and practicing for a few years, I decided to join AmeriCorps. Did so, went to Vermont for a year, and had a wonderful time. Met my wife, and the rest has been history. So looking forward to talking to you and answering your questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Skylar Cetel. I'm the Associate Director of Academic Success. And a fun fact for today is that my March Madness bracket is doing quite well, and I'm very proud of it.
Hi, everyone. I am Nancy Whalen. I'm the Director of Student Affairs and Wellbeing. I'm jealous of Skylar because my bracket is killed with the exception of Villanova. But my fun fact is that I have a 4-year-old white shepherd named Quincy, and I'm trying to get him to be a therapy dog. So we'll see. Maybe you'll get to meet him one day.
Hey everyone, my name is Kristina Wilhelm-Nelson, and I am Director of Financial Aid at the law school. I think a fun fact was before I got into financial aid, I was an archaeologist for 6 years. That's what my undergrad degree is in. And there's no easy transition from archaeology to financial aid. You just kind of fall into it. But some days I wish I was back there. So on the nice spring days outside digging instead of in front of a computer.
And I will just say that all these individuals, they have like big, bright smiles on their faces. With the exception of Skylar, who I've come to know and really love and appreciate as a colleague. These other 3 individuals were here when I was a student at Villanova Law. They are go-to individuals. They are people that you want in your corner. There are people who are going to be there to support you, and Skylar as well, because now she is at the law school and she's also a great part of the academic success team. I'm coming to our students next for introductions. Timothy, I'm starting with you. So we have a 3rd-year student here. Then we're going to have an introduction from Jahnvi, who's a 1st-year student, who will sort of introduce themselves, where you went to undergrad, maybe your interest in law school, different types of things you've done during the summertime. Jahnvi, maybe what you're doing this summer, and maybe a fun fact as well, and then we'll get into the panel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Timothy Kazanduka. I'm a 3L here at Villanova, and I've loved every second of it. And I'm going to be sad to be leaving, but happy I'll always be a Villanovan. I went to SUNY Maritime for my undergraduate degree, and I also did a master's degree as well. And love international trade. And that's a really amazing fun fact about me. So I'll be a trade law attorney going forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jahnvi. I'm a 1L, and this summer I'll be interning at the Attorney General's office for New Jersey, and I'll be starting my MBA classes also at the school. And then prior to law school, I do not have work experience, but I did get my paralegal certification, and I graduated in 2020 from RUC Camden, and I came in undecided at first for law school, but I would say going through pro bono work and seeing what my classes are like, I'm leaning more towards corporate law. And a fun fact about me, I can speak 2 Indian languages, Hindi and Gujarati, and I learned Hindi exclusively from watching movies.
Pretty impressive, Jahnvi, and I will just say congratulations on the JD MBA. That's exciting that you're going to get started in that program. A couple of housekeeping things that I'm going to address really quickly is that moving forward, of course, you're going to be getting a lot of information from our office. The first deposit deadline, of course, coming up in a couple of weeks in April. And I will just mention that we do have a housing roommate spreadsheet that we have shared with you all via Facebook, but we'll also be emailing out to you all so that you have access to that, a place where you can answer a questionnaire about yourself and then find individuals that hopefully end up being, in essence, your perfect match for a roommate if you're looking to have a roommate in law school. You'll be able to register for parking in July. You can submit a picture for your wild card once you submit your second deposit. So there are other things that are going to be coming down the pipeline the rest of this summer. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can also submit your enrollment confirmation agreement to alleviate the financial burden for those who know that they want to enroll at Villanova in the fall. But as I mentioned, schedules are coming out in late July, book lists are coming out, as well as first day assignments in late July. Our office is going to be hosting, along with the alumni office, regional welcomes. So if you're not in the Philadelphia area and if you're in a different part of the country right now, we get alumni from different parts of the country to do welcomes, to talk about how they came to Villanova but ended up practicing elsewhere, or maybe returned home where they were from to practice after graduating. You're able to visit still. We have tours every day. There are admitted students. There are people coming to the law school. I think there's 6 or 7 today visiting for a tour. The tour's happening right now as we speak. So you can come to visit if you'd like. Go ahead and reach out to me afterwards if you'd like to visit, or if you think that you want to come to observe a class or to meet with people. I'm going to put my email address into the chat box. I will also encourage you all to reach out to me if anybody says anything today, one of our panelists, and you want to connect with them later on. I know they'd love to hear from you, and they're very willing to share more about the law school with you as well. So reach out to me, and I can always follow up and connect you with them afterwards. I'm going to start with Christina for financial aid. And so, Christina, I know that you sort of have something ready to go in terms of the department, and you know what you're describing, obviously, because you've done this for so many years. But essentially, financial aid, what's the department there for? How does it help students? Important dates. When should people be in touch with your office? Some should have already, some have been already, but just sort of the basics and sort of just describing your office. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Phil's having me go first because it's the most boring part of the segment, and he doesn't want you guys falling asleep a little bit later. And
that is not true.
That. I got it. So in addition to myself, we have Jennifer, Director of Financial Aid, and Christopher Nicholson, who is our financial aid counselor. And our financial aid office operates completely independent of main campus, and that's just so we can service our students to the best of our ability. Jennifer, the primary contact for our admitted students. She is excellent at helping students navigate through the financial aid process. I highly recommend scheduling an appointment with her if you have any questions. And if you want to schedule an appointment, I'll put our email address into the chat box as well. So you can email us or call us. All of our information is on the website. And for those of you on this webinar who are interested in borrowing loan funding to defray the cost of tuition and living expenses, if you have not already completed your FAFSA, I highly recommend that you do it as soon as possible, because we cannot create an award letter for you without a completed FAFSA. And if you complete a FAFSA, you have questions, or if the Department of Ed is saying that you need additional information, you don't quite understand it, again, make an appointment with us and we are happy to walk you through it, because we want you to have this information as soon as possible, because the sooner you have it, the better you'll be able to plan where you're going to live and so forth. So in addition to federal funding that's are eligible to borrow, we also have a small amount of need-based scholarship funding available to our incoming students. So the amounts of these scholarships range from $4,000 to about $10,000. And to apply for one of these scholarships, you'll need to submit a need-based financial aid application, and that's found on our website. And with that need-based application, we ask that you submit a personal essay. So you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you think that you deserve a scholarship. And priority for those scholarships is given to students who have not received a merit-based scholarship. And we also look at demonstrated financial need to the best of our ability because we want to distribute these funds as fairly and equitably as possible. So in addition to our loans and our small amount of need-based scholarships, we also offer multiple financial literacy programs throughout the year, and we hold these workshops for all students, not just students who are taking out financial aid. We did it as an experiment one year, a few years ago, and we got amazing feedback from our students. They found it really helpful, and these workshops really are geared towards helping students budget while they're in school, and they helps learn about investing while in school. Even though you probably think I'm not going to have the money to invest, they provide a lot of options for small investments that can definitely grow bigger, and they focus on budgeting for after you graduate as well. So I highly recommend them, and we actually start these programs at orientation, and then we have two every single year. So we have in our office, we have an open door policy should you have any questions about your financial aid, because our goal is to make this process as stress-free as possible for you, because you have enough on your plate coming to law school, and we don't want any financial aid related issues to stress you out. We are here to help. Jennifer and Chris are amazing. They're very student oriented, and we also offer assistance for you after you graduate. You are more than welcome to call us, come back in, set up an appointment via Zoom once your loan repayment begins, if you are borrowing loans, because there are several different loan repayment options that will be available to you. And because this is our job to know this, not yours, we are more than happy to help you find a repayment plan that works for you, and we'll even help you apply for it. So like I said, we are here to help. We want to take this stress away from you. We want to do everything we can to make this an easy process for you, and we will help you throughout the year. Just stop in with any questions. And I think that's it for my department.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. So Christina mentioned that she's going to put her email address, the department's email address in the chat box. So if you have questions moving forward, if you want to schedule an appointment to meet with somebody from her office, Jennifer in particular, who's amazing and works with incoming 1Ls, please go ahead and do so. I'm actually going to throw really quickly a link into the chat box, sort of the incoming student checklist. So this is like before you start, things you should be aware of, things you should be considering, things you should be thinking about. I'm also going to ask all of our admitted students on the webinar to make use of the Q&A box during the presentation. If you have any questions for our panelists, they're of course going to describe their departments, and we're going to hear from our students as well. But they want to hear from you. They want to get to answer your questions as well. That's sort of why we're here today. So don't be shy. Ask questions, pepper them with questions, the hard ones, the easy ones, whatever the case may be. Yeah, I'm going to turn it over now to Nancy, our Director of Student Affairs and Wellness.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, everyone, and congratulations on your admittance to Villanova Law School. We hope to see you here in the fall, or to come visit, as Phil said, if you haven't been already, because I think when you're here in person, you can really get a sense of the community and how special Villanova is. I've spent the better part of my career here at Villanova dedicated to making the student experience as positive as it can be. I wear many, many hats, but one of them is with student involvement. I know you're going to meet with some students later on talking about involvement, but we have a student bar association, and they're sort of like student government, and they're elected 1L, 2L, and 3Ls. They plan events, they build community, they meet with myself and the deans and administration to sort of represent any student concerns and issues that are might be going on. They oversee over 45 very diverse and active student organizations. And when I say active, I mean active. And Timothy and Jahnvi can speak to that more so. But in the last week, our Democrat student group had a congresswoman here. Our affinity student groups had a cultural food fest. Our St. Thomas More, the Catholic Law Society, had one of our 3L students whose sister Bridget gave a talk about her faith journey. Today, our Fashion Law Society is having a CLE with lawyers from Louis Vuitton and Marc Jacobs and a bunch of other places. Tomorrow, our Public Interest student organization is having an auction with over 200 people to raise money for summer fellows. So there's a lot of ways to get involved at the law school. It's a really active student life, and that is part of the positive experience, both outside of the classroom and in the classroom. The other hat one of the other hats I wear is the well-being piece, and that is the part I'm the most passionate about, to the extent that I really care about each and every one of you once you come here, as does everyone on this call. It is really a genuinely supportive community, because we know law school is hard, and we know life happens and continues to happen, and people have sick family members or deaths in the family, or could be personal issues, relationship issues, financial stressors that impact their academic success. Also, depression, anxiety, all of those things, and well-being are a huge part of the experience that not only myself and the other staff members here, but our faculty care about you and want to help support you in that journey. So we have a student group, that's the Student Mental Health Society, that started in the past year, and they do some programming. We have a Dean's Council on mental health and well-being, and we're working towards helping educate the faculty on some suggestions to recognize the stressors that are out on students, and destigmatizing mental health and encouraging our students to ask for help. As this panel, Phil said about it being aptly entitled, it is supporting our students. And to the extent that we can support you when you're here at Villanova in the financial way, the academic way, and social avenues, and emotionally, we want to see you not just survive, but thrive here. And that's part of our mission is from everyone here, is to make it be as positive as it can possibly be. So we're here to support you, and congratulations.
Before I turn it over to Matt and Skylar for academic success, I want to go to Timothy and Jahnvi to just describe, Nancy obviously mentioned student affairs, different student groups. What student groups have you all gotten involved with? List them off. Maybe if you just give a brief sentence as to what that group stands for, or what that group's about, just to get a sense for getting involved. Jahnvi, you're a 1L, right? So I know you're involved in groups. People always ask, is it doable? Can you do that? Is it too much to take on? Timothy, you're a third-year student, so you can talk about that as well. But yeah, just share sort of what your experiences have been getting involved with different groups during your time at Villanova. Jahnvi, I'll start with you, and then we'll go to Timothy.
Okay, sure. So I am the secretary for APALSA, which is the Asian Pacific American Law Students Association. And basically, they stand for an inclusive community for a lot of Asian students, especially first generation law school students. And I'm also now the treasurer. I originally was the 1L rep for the first generation lawyers group, which is also very similar, any first generation law school student. And it teaches you how to network and be involved in the law school community. And I'm also just a regular member of the Pro Bono Society, where I volunteer my time and I participate in expungement clinics or in the birth certificate clinic, just to learn different areas and aspects of law that I haven't really been introduced to before. Prior to law school, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be involved in any organizations. I wasn't that kind of person to be in a leadership position even. I always would just go to clubs and kind of hang out in the back and see what was going on. But coming to law school, I realized that people want you to join. When we had the organizations fair, the first couple weeks on campus, people would hand out flyers and they would say, please join, we really want you involved. And once I realized how inclusive the community was, I decided to run for positions to get involved and speak my voice.
Yeah, I second that as well. As a 1L, the Black Law Students Association really made me feel accepted and included at Villanova, and many other groups as well. But when you have a group that really, wants to know how your journey is, they want to help you, they want to give you mentors, that makes you feel a part of the community. And Villanova does a really amazing job at that. So my second year, I decided to become, I didn't decide to become, but I ran to become a treasurer, and luckily I won. And that was an amazing experience, mostly because you get to network and you get to learn to work with your fellow students. You get to see different learning styles. You get to see how people operate when not thinking just about books and constitutional law and contracts. So that was also been a very great experience. And I was also a part of the non-traditional law group. For me, I graduated law school in 2015 and had about 4 years of work experience. So transitioning back into the school academic world was difficult and different, but having a space where you could talk to people that are going through the same exact thing and stresses has also been something that's been very great. So join groups and don't be afraid to get yourself out there.
I appreciate that. Look at that, Jahnvi, surprising yourself, right? Going from the back of the classroom to literally leading the meetings. Going to academic success next with Matt and Skylar to talk about all that they do. I can't even begin to describe what they do because there's just so much there, but such great support, such great resources. Tune in to sort of hear what they describe, and then we'll get our students' take on some additional questions.
Thanks, Phil. So right, academic success is basically me and Skylar. And we do a lot of different things, but I think that the best way to describe it in an introductory way is what we are starting with is we see our job as trying to help new law students learn how to study law generally as a field of study, as opposed to the details of any single subject that you're going to take in your first year, torts, contracts, etc. So why do we do this? Because I think I can say confidently, and I would imagine our students would corroborate, the study of law is just very different than basically any other academic field for a lot of reasons. And first of all, it's not, memorization is important, but it's not just a matter of memorizing and reciting. The sources are very different. In law school, you're going to read almost exclusively sources that most students have not had a huge amount of exposure to: cases, statutes, regulations, things like that. You have to do things with the information that you gather, as opposed to, as I said, just memorizing them. And particularly, we expect students to develop the skill of applying the laws that they learn to new sets of facts, which is what lawyers do, right? Objectively and persuasively, and that's where the fun is. So in other words, as law students, you are asked to develop a whole new set of academic skills, and that is what we focus on. The specialized skills that are relevant to every class, not just any single class. We do that in a variety of different ways. So you will see us many times and in many different stages throughout your 3 years here at Villanova. We do it in a one-on-one basis through classes like professional development. We have workshops for credit courses for which we earn credit, things like that. And we love it. It's a great place to be in the law school, because we know that law school can be overwhelming to start with. It's very exciting, but there's a lot of transition, a lot of new things to experience. And we try to make that transition easier for you, to help you make it successfully. So if you have questions basically about the academic side of law school, we are happy to answer them. I will mention we also, after the 1 year 1L experience, we also help students with their preparation and bar passage and licensure effectively. So if you happen to have questions about bar exams or bar license, things like that, we can answer those as well. So thank you all.
Skylar, are you saying anything?
Matt did a great job explaining high level. I just wanted to add that we absolutely love what we do. We love working one-on-one with students to help anything and everything that you're going through as you learn and grow over your 3 years in law school. And we also love our courses that we teach. We teach a 1L elective in the spring semester. We also teach a 3L course in the spring semester as well, but you will see us in the fall in your professional development course, which all of you will be taking. And you'll also see us at orientation, where we'll teach you how to brief a case and get you set up to start.
Awesome. Thank you all for that. I want to come back to our students now. I know that you've worked with lots of these different departments during your time as students as a 1L, Jahnvi, but also Timothy, from your first year to second year to third year. And the question that I want to ask is sort of related to how you've worked with them, sort of the reasons why you would say students should take advantage of these resources, going to them for assistance, for guidance, for support, whether that's emotional, mental support, whether that's financial aid support, whether it's just somebody that you can sort of like talk to, sort of like an ear that listen to you, a shoulder for you when you need help and assistance. Um, but yeah, just chat a little bit about those experiences and your involvements with these offices. And then I want to ask you a few questions about setting boundaries in law school. That's a really big thing that comes up. Law school is a big time commitment, and making sure that you can dedicate the time necessary to your academics is essential. Timothy, I'll start with you, and then we'll do Jahnvi.
Absolutely. I've had a terrific experience working with Skylar and Dean Carluzzo. I think, like Dean Carluzzo said very correctly, it is a new experience, and transitioning, it's very exciting, at first, but then, when you get into that first week or that first month or those first 2 months, it can be very overwhelming. So what academic success does very well is they kind of hone you in and they calm you down and they try to teach you the skills that you need to be able to put yourself in a position to feel confident and try to perform well on your exams. And I think that kind of, high level one-on-one discussions and trainings are very, very helpful. So I think, they're here for you. The opportunities are there. They're always willing to make as much time as you need, and to really develop different skills that you'll need to be able to do on a law school exam, and to just feel confident in the classroom, and then also more importantly, feel confident about yourself and your standing at the law school.
So for me, I think I have interacted with all of these offices in one way or another. The first office that I actually interacted with was the financial aid office. And when I was first accepted, I talked to Christina, and I didn't have any way of understanding like the scholarships or just financial aid, FAFSA in general, because my parents would usually take care of that in undergrad, and I wanted to take more responsibility. So I learned a lot about financial aid, and I also was on a need-based scholarship. So it was really helpful learning all those things before I started school. And with academic success, Dean Carluzzo and Skylar, like you heard everyone say, they would be in our PD classes, and they would also encourage us to meet with them individually if we were still having trouble. Like, for example, when I first sat through orientation, I did not even know what a plaintiff or a defendant was. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to learn how to brief a case. It's taking me hours. And now I'll fly through cases, and I can't even imagine doing that in August when I was sitting there. But I think everyone is genuinely out for your well-being, and they do want to see you do well. For admissions, when I was on the wait list, I would contact Phil and everyone else in the office every month to tell them how excited I was to one day come to law school here. And then Nancy, if I'm ever feeling overwhelmed, I would always go to her, because I knew that was someone that I could talk to even now. Outside of my first semester, she's been very supportive and showed me that there's a place for me here, even if I struggled my first semester, and that if this is something that I really want to do, I can do it with the support that I have.
Thank you all for being so personal and I guess like approachable, even just through your responses. I really appreciate that. These are departments at the law school that I guess are staff departments. When you think about support, chat with me, Timothy. What does support look like between students, from student to student, or from professor to student, or from alum to student? Have you been able to experience support from different avenues, and sort of what does that look like for these admitted students who are potentially coming to Villanova in the fall?
I mean, Villanova has support in so many different ways, but one of the students that are admitted to the school are very great people. People really want to help each other. People want to band together. People want to see each other succeed. And I think obviously people go into their different sects in terms of different groups and who they're going to be talking to. But my support has come from some of my closest friends that I've been able to build here, which I think will be lifelong friends for me. So finding those people that you can be vulnerable with, those people that you can talk to on a day-to-day basis, that you can tell everything, I think is really important to kind of find those people early on, try to be social. Law school can be overwhelming, but you can't be in a bubble by yourself and lock yourself in a closet, because you miss out on some of these lifelong relationships that you're making. A lot of people are spending a lot of money to come here to law school, and yes, we're getting a great education, but we're also here to build friendships and whatever else. So I would really suggest reaching out to your fellow classmates and trying to make those relationships.
And then I want to go back to the question that I was going to ask prior that I guess I forgot a little bit. The question about setting boundaries, setting expectations. You're coming to law school, you have families, you have loved ones, you have people that you care about, friends. What was that experience like for you, Jahnvi? What was that like for you, Timothy? Thinking sort of back to when you started law school, even now progressing throughout these last few years, setting boundaries, being able to dedicate yourself to what law school expects of you or requires of you as a student. What's that experience like? Jahnvi, we'll start with you.
So I actually live with a big family. I have a family of 10 at home, and I'm a very big homebody. The reason why I wanted to go to law school close by is because I wanted to stay home and spend time with my family. So starting law school, it was a big adjustment when everyone is spending time together downstairs and I'm, in my room studying. Sometimes it's kind of hard that you have to sacrifice quality time to not spend it with the people that you care about, but my support system at home is great. It was an adjustment at first to let them know, like, hey, I won't be able to sit down with you guys. I have to do this reading. But if I know I can do something small on my laptop, I'll try to sit down with them while I'm doing work and while they're eating or something, even though my schedule might be totally different than theirs. But once you establish those boundaries and you tell your family or your friends about the work that you do, they'll see how much work you're doing and they'll begin to understand why your schedule is the way that it is.
Absolutely. I second that, but my experience, honestly, when it comes to your family, I think family is also really, really important. You want to set boundaries, but they're there for you. Those are the people that are going to, when you're having a rough time, when something's on your mind, when you're feeling overwhelmed, those are the people that will always pick up the phone and talk to you and calm you down and remember that they love you and they care for you and you can do that. So you want to set boundaries, but you don't want to isolate yourself from those that were there for you from the beginning and probably played a really big part into getting where you are right now. So set boundaries, but don't isolate and try to make time for people when you can. People will understand, but if it's every Sunday you're calling your mother, your father, or your brother, that's fine. But don't forget them.
Yeah, having a bit of a routine is really important in law school, having outlets, people obviously that support you, but sometimes people will mention like the gym is if the gym's your outlet, if cooking is your outlet, meal prepping, taking a walk, going for a run, making sure that you keep yourself sane in law school, making sure that you find ways to spend time doing things that you're truly passionate about. There's a question here, it's kind of funny, it's actually for the staff members at the law school. And the question says, Phil mentioned that you all have been working here since he was a student. What has kept you here this long at Villanova Law? What do you like most about working with students? I'll start with Nancy and then Christina, Matt, Skylar as well. Feel free to jump in to share what you enjoy most about your role and working with students at the law school.
Great question, but I think what has kept me here, and I've been here for quite a long time, is the relationships that we get to have with the students when they come in at orientation. And sometimes somebody will come running into my office orientation, like what you just said, Jahnvi, like this, I don't know if I'm going to make it here, or at different points in their career. And being able to be a part of the support to make people's dreams come true and to see them through obstacles. And so commencement day, to me, I've been to over 20 of them, and it's always just warms my heart to hear a pomp and circumstance and watch everybody's name get called and watch them walk across the stage and know that they might be the first in their family, they might be the 10th in the family, they might be number one in the class, they could be the very last person in the class, but they're still getting a JD and they've worked incredibly hard for it. And we've all community, the whole entire community just embraces each one of those students. So I think that's what keeps me here, is that every year there's a new group of students who come in and we can help them make that possibility come true. I will say that when Philip was a student here, I'm going to add a bit to him. He was a Student Bar Association president, and it is a small community. Like many of you are at colleges that might have thousands of people. You'll be at law school with maybe 200. And Phil knew every single person in his class. If he would come into my office, he had them on his phone and he could contact them. And I think that level of community that Tim and Jahnvi are sharing, like their subsets as well as the larger group, look out for one another in ways that sometimes we can't as staff people, but you keep an eye on each other and encourage one another through the good times and bad times and cheer when they get a job. And that's the fun of it for me.
Okay. I kind of echo what Nancy said. I really, really enjoy developing relationships with our students, watching them start, like come here all scared and stressed as 1Ls and see them walk across that graduation stage at the end, confident and ready to start a new chapter in their lives. We have just an amazing sense of community, and I've never worked anywhere or found anything like this prior to being here. I've been here 8.5 years, but I've been doing financial aid for 22. And I can't express, like, if they will let me retire from here, I will, because I enjoy everyone I work with. We work really well together because we all have the same goal to make sure our students are okay. And I think that we partner up. If somebody hears a student's not doing well, we'll talk and we'll reach out to the student and we'll do what we can to make sure that they're okay. I've had students over to my house for dinner. I have maintained relationships with students after they graduate, and I love getting emails from students who graduated years ago telling me about a promotion they received or a new job that they have. And it's a great place to work. We have great students, we have great staff, and I really do hope to retire here like my predecessor. She was here for 26 years and retired, and that's the only reason I have this job right now. No.
I'm going to put Christina on the hot seat. I've never been over for dinner, Christina, so get to it.
There's still time, Phil. There's still time.
Skylar, I'll defer to you, actually.
So I am relatively new, at least in this crowd. This is my 3rd year here. And this is a very special year for me. This is my first year where the 3Ls were my first class. And so I'm starting to really feel exactly what Nancy and Christina have expressed, where I'm watching these now 3Ls become these amazing, very capable, almost attorneys, and it's really amazing, and it does keep me here for sure.
And for me, I guess, right, I'm noticing the theme here, but it's true for me too. It's what keeps me here is the students, is working with the students. Particularly, I love this, what I and Skylar get to do with the students, which is focus on the academic side, because I don't mind admitting to the students, for me, law school was hard at first. It was a difficult transition. And so getting to help people get through the stuff something is always hard for someone, you know what I mean? And I see law school as, it's the first step in a path towards a career where you're going to do things that inspire you and that you want to do. And I enjoy helping people basically, I feel like, get through whatever it is that they need to be able to move more confidently into that career, quickly into that career, et cetera. So it is just the constant getting to help students achieve their goals.
And Jahnvi and Tim, I feel like I've asked this question for all the panels that I've been on, honestly, and so I'm going to ask you all this. Thinking about Villanova Law, what's a word or a phrase or a thought that comes to mind? First thing that comes to mind for you all. Timothy, what comes to mind when you hear Villanova Law?
We've said that I have a few, so I'm going to give you more than one, but community, inclusiveness, those are two that really come to me, and I'll explain that. And I know Nancy's really done a really good job of doing that, so I don't want to be too repetitive, but it really is a community. All of the staff, they work together to help students reach their goals and to let students know that they're there for them every step of the way, whether it's through academic success, whether it's through, having, issues with Nancy, or whether it's through financial aid. They're here for you, and they really mean that. It's not just talk. It's not like they're disconnected and they don't make time. So I really think community really embodies that. And then also inclusiveness, as a Black person at the school, I feel accepted, I feel motivated, I feel determined. I feel, supported. So those two words really mean something to me.
So it's funny because I was also going to say community. A year ago, I was in the same exact spot, but on the reverse end, I was watching an admitted students panel, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to law school at Villanova. But once I heard a student talk about community, I thought it was unique just because I didn't hear too many law schools talk about just the community and the support system, even between students. Faculty and students I would get, but even with students, just hearing in my classes, if I had a cold call, a student would text me after and say, hey, like your cold call was great. Or a 2 or a 3, I'll just want to hear you rant about a class that you're struggling in, or here to help you with outlines, or alumni and like professors, like they want to see you and they want to hear you. I just think that the community aspect, but even the support, I would say, is more immense than any other place that I've ever been, even undergrad. People just genuinely want to see you do well.
This might be a question that might be a little bit difficult for you all to answer, the students, just depending on where you live specifically. But there's a question here about housing. Do most first-year students live near campus? Do students have the ability to live in Philadelphia? Is that feasible? Is that doable? I can address it a little bit too after you all answer, but I can let you all just speak a little bit to your experiences about your classmates and sort of even yourselves and what that might look like. Jahnvi, you can start with that one.
So originally I wasn't sure if I wanted to live close by campus or commute. I live in South Jersey, so I have about a 40-minute commute, and I commuted in undergrad, so I was used to the routine and how my schedule would be. But a lot of my friends, they live 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or even through like the train that they would come from Philly. So there's a variety of different ways that you can find housing. And if it works for you, do it. There's no specific way to be successful with housing. Like if you think that you need to be close by, or you think that you need a little bit of space away from campus after classes are done, that's totally okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think Phil talked about the spreadsheet. That's how I got my roommates, and that's how I got my housing. So take advantage of that, because a lot of people are looking for roommates that are, guys are going to law school. People are looking for places to live, and that makes it less stressed. You don't feel like you're doing it by yourself. So take advantage of that spreadsheet, because people are looking to find new places to live.
Nancy, there's a question here about student groups, the ways in which they're funded, the ways in which they're able to put on events. Can you just speak a little bit to that, just sort of what that process might look like? I know the next panel has SBA on it, so they can also chat about it a little bit, but what's the process like for groups to get funded, to be able to put on events, things like that?
Sure. Well, as I said, there's about 45 student groups under SBA, and when you come to Villanova, you'll pay, I think it's a student activity fee. I don't know what it is per semester, but that funds the Student Bar Association to plan programs and events to support both those 45 student groups, as well as like larger events like Barrister's Ball or different things for the entire community. Each group submits a budget packet, not to get too specific, because you'll be a treasurer of a group like Timothy was, and you'll know how the intricacies of that goes, but they support groups to do programming that's open. Every event should be open to the entire student body. Mostly we have at Villanova, there's a lunch break, like between like 12 and 1:30-ish, and a lot of the groups bring in speakers and have panels and do events during that time. So the SBA treasurer is really in charge of how that funding process works. It's independent. It's a little different than undergrad, and to the extent that student groups run themselves. It's not an office here that runs all the groups. I'm here to sort of oversee and guide, but as future attorneys, we really entrust and empower you with a lot of that dynamic. I think Timothy might have experienced that when he was doing funding for Balsa, right?
Yes, yeah, I definitely did. You definitely have to, wear many hats, work with your board members, see what can get approved, go back and forth, right? Different requests. The treasurer may say, well, we need more justification for that. So it actually does give you a good experience of managing something like that.
I want to put really quickly in here before I forget the link to the very next event that's coming up. It's our last event of the day, as we're getting ready to wrap up this panel in a couple of minutes. But this last panel is a panel that includes students who are representatives from the Law Review, the Environmental Law Journal, the Sports Law Journal, the Student Bar Association that you keep hearing about, the student government at the law school, also Trial Team and Moot Court. So really some heavy hitters, people who are in charge of these journals and student groups, people who are involved with them, to learn from them about sort of the ways in which you should get involved, can get involved, might want to consider getting involved at the law school. Jahnvi and Timothy, I'm coming to you for this next question. And the question is advice for incoming students, for incoming 1Ls. Any thoughts on people who are thinking about law school, trying to decide where to go? Maybe some of the things that you considered, or some of the things you kept in mind when you were ultimately deciding where you wanted to go. It may be related to that. It also might just be advice that you have, things to keep in mind as a 1L student. Jahnvi, are there things that you've become accustomed to doing that maybe that were foreign to you beforehand, that you think, hey, listen, like this is something that I'd put on your radar really early on. This is something that I'd want to be mindful of really early on, or sort of to keep in the background. Timothy, can I start with you for this one?
Yes, that's a very detailed question, and I'm going to do my best job to answer it. I think there's two things. Number one, I think to the extent that you can do so, try to come in a little bit relaxed, whether it's a vacation or you've had some time off to be with some family. I think that's really just good for your mental health. If you can, don't try to go from one thing and then go straight to law school and you just ended work. That just seems like it could be a little bit overwhelming. And number two, I think that to the extent you can reach out to people on LinkedIn and understand different ways to be successful in law school or what that takes. I don't think that's a bad thing to do. If you're going to come to Villanova, reaching out to Professor Dean Carluzzo or Skylar, and just kind of get in that mentality and understand kind of on day one what you kind of is expected of you. And I think that those things, I know a lot of people say, don't do anything and just don't do anything. But I think that there are some things that you can do, at least to just level set expectations of what you're coming into. I think that can be very helpful for students, in my opinion.
So a couple things. I would say when I first started law school, I was under the impression, oh, it's just like a job. I'll go in at 9 and I'll be done at 5 and it'll be great. But sometimes you do have to put in more than a 9 to 5. You might be pushing 10, 11, 12. Like you will have stressful days, but even though it's a crucial time, it's not forever. It's a short amount of time that you're going to law school, but it's still important to take care of yourself, like self-care. I try to incorporate something just for me at least once a week. And if it's a really stressful week, probably a little bit more. You just want to have a small win each day to get you through something. And I would also say, like, start doing things that you might not be interested in law school, just to see if that's actually how you feel. I went in under the impression that I do not want to do corporate law at all. And then I actually got involved and I actually did clinics and experiential learning and applied, and I heard feedback from other students and professors, and I am doing exactly the opposite. And I think it's pretty cool to see that if you are uncomfortable, it's okay. And you're allowed to ask for help, especially in this community, because they want to see you do well. So when you are uncomfortable and you try and you end up liking something, you can learn a little bit more about yourself in law school.
I appreciate that. Thank you both for that. I feel like this is as good a time as any to maybe end our panel. I do want to thank you all so much for joining, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to hear about what supporting students at Villanova Law looks like. You have some really great advocates for you on this call today. You have some students here. Timothy is going to be an alum, but he'll definitely, I'm sure, be available to students who are coming in who want to talk to an alum, who want to hear from somebody who's doing the type of work that he's going to be doing. And also, Jahnvi, you'll be seeing her most definitely as a second-year student at the law school. So you have the link there to the Getting Involved panel. We're going to be starting that within the next 10 minutes or so you have a bit of a break right now. But thank you so much to all of our panelists. Thank you so much to all of you for joining, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you all so much. Thanks, Christina. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Skylar. Jahnvi, Timothy, y'all are the best. Thank you.